Today we'll see second lesson in strength of materials, simple stresses and strains. After studying this lesson, you should be in a position to calculate simple stresses in machine component. This will be the course outcome for this lesson. So we'll see content of this lesson. So content of this lesson is as given on your screen. So in this we'll start with first point, that is equilibrium, rigid body and deformable body, and we'll be studying the highlighted part today in this video, and other part will be studied in subsequent videos. So we'll start with first point. So first point is equilibrium, rigid body, deformable body. So we'll see the equilibrium. So equilibrium, the system is said to be in equilibrium if the algebraic sum of all the forces and moments about any point is 0. So we have studied this part or equilibrium in mechanics also. So there was three conditions of equilibrium. So first condition was summation of fx is equal to 0. Second condition was summation of fy is equal to 0, and third, summation of moments is equal to 0. So first condition, summation of fx is equal to 0, that means summation of all the horizontal forces should be equal to 0. Summation of fy is equal to 0 means summation of all the vertical forces should be equal to 0, and summation of moments is equal to 0, that means moment of all the forces as well as all the moments about any point should be equal to 0. So these are the three conditions of equilibrium. So these conditions can be understood by one example. So we'll see the example. So here on your screen you are observing two children are sitting on seesaw at distance r1 and r2 with mass m1 and m2, and the weights w1 and w2. So weights are acting at cg of that mass or children body. So and fp is the reaction force offered by the fulcrum. So w1 and w2 will be acting towards the ground, that is in downward direction, and fp will be in upward direction. So if you say this beam or this seesaw is in equilibrium, then conditions of equilibrium should be satisfied. So we'll check the conditions, or we'll find the formula to uh, get the conditions of equilibrium satisfied. So first condition of equilibrium is summation of fx is equal to 0. As there is no any horizontal force applied on the system, so we can skip that condition and we can directly go to second condition, that is summation of fy is equal to 0, which is summation of vertical forces will be equal to 0. So summation of vertical forces we need to take. So here the equation is directly written. I will show the calculation part here. So summation of fy, that is equal to 0. Here we need to take sign conventions. So vertically upward force will be taken as positive. So here fp will be positive, and w1 as well as w2 will be negative, as both w1 and w2 are acting in downward direction and fp is in upward direction. And if you rearrange the terms, you will get this equation, fp is equal to w1 plus w2. So third condition of equilibrium is summation of moments about any points should be equal to 0. So we'll take the moment about the center or fulcrum point, so that we can get this equation. So I will calculate the moment created by this w1 about this fulcrum, that will be rotating this beam or left hand side, rotating this beam in anti-clockwise direction. And so we can write here summation of moments about fulcrum point is equal to 0 is equal to, So moment created by W1 will be equal to W1 R1 and it will be negative, and moment created by this W2 will be in clockwise direction, so it is positive. So W2 into R2 will be the moment created by second weight. So if you rearrange these terms, you will get this equation W1 R1 is equal to W2 R2. So here there is typing mistake. So W1 R1 is equal to W2 R2. This is the explanation for equilibrium. Now we'll see rigid body. So rigid body, definition of rigid body: when external forces are applied on a body, if body does not undergo any change in dimension, then we can say such body as a rigid body. So consider any body. If that body is acted upon by number of forces in different direction, then also that body is not having any effect of that forces, then we can say such body as rigid body. So rigid body is not in existence, so this is the only assumption. Then elastic body or deformable body, definition of that can be written as: when external force is applied on a body, its dimensions changes to respond the applied force, but it will go to its initial dimensions after removal of force. So such body is called as elastic body. So for better understanding, I will explain here. Suppose this is a rod or component which is applied by force P. This force P is a tensile force. So suppose initial length is L, and due to application of force, suppose this body is extended by distance. Total extension in length will be equal to L, sorry, extension will be equal to dl. So total length will be L plus dl. So when you remove this force P, then the body will go to its initial dimensions, that is its length will become L, which is original length. Such body is called as elastic body. So next definition is plastic body. So plastic body is opposite of elastic body. So definition of plastic body: when external force is applied on a body, its dimension changes permanently, and it will not regain its original dimensions after removing the forces, and such body is called as plastic body. So suppose same body is there, but this type of body is plastic body. If you apply similar kind of force over this body also, then if its initial length is L, and due to application, suppose its length is increased from L to L plus dl, and if you remove this P and this P, then also its total length will remain dl plus L, that is the length which was changed due to application of force is remaining as it is after removing the force. So we can say the body is having permanent deformation after application of force, and such body is called as plastic body. So now we'll see next part. So here, before going to stress, we'll see the types of loads. So for better understanding of stress, we'll cover this part, types of loads. So according to type of loading, there are 4 types. First is static or dead load. So when body is acted upon by a stationary force or constant force throughout the loading time, then such type of load is called as static load or dead load. And then second type is live load. The load will be changing throughout the loading time. Such a load is called as live load. The load or magnitude of that load will be changing throughout the loading cycle. Third type of loading or load is impact or shock load. Such type of loading is done for very short period of time, and it will be acted within a short or within a fraction of seconds on the body or component, and in such cases failure chances are more as compared to static and live loading. So last type of load is fatigue or fluctuating load. So this type of load is also changing load. It will be continuously changing from, suppose, one value 10 kilonewton to 50 kilonewton. Again it is coming to 10 kilonewton. In next cycle again it is going to 50, then coming to 10. Such loading cycle will be followed throughout its loading period. So such type of loading is called as fatigue loading or fluctuating loading. uh, Wait. Next, types of loads according to loading direction. This is important for our syllabus. So we'll see the types of loads according to loading direction. First type is direct or axial load. The load which will be along the axis of component is called as direct or axial load. Direct or axial load is again classified into two types. First is tensile load. When load is applied uh, and load is going away from the body, as shown in figure. Here you are observing the tensile loading. Such type of load is called as tensile load. The force P is going away from the body. Next will be studying compressive load. So compressive load is opposite of tensile load. When the body is acted upon by two axial forces, which will be coming towards the body. So here in this diagram you are observing this force P is acted upon by, or it is acting towards towards left on right hand side, and force P is acting towards right on left hand side. So both the forces will be trying to compress the body. Such type of loading is called compressive loading. Next, eccentric loading. This direct or axial loading is loaded in tensile as well as compressive. The load will be acting in along the axis of the body. But in case of eccentric loading, the condition will be different. Suppose this dotted line is showing you axial direction or axis of that body, but force P is applied at distance E. It is away from the axial direction or axis by distance small e. Such type of loading is called as eccentric loading. And shear loading. In case of shear loading, suppose this point is A point and this point is B point, and it is C and D. So after application of force, this A may move to A dash and B may move to B dash. So you can see the structure which will be after application of load P. So here we can say this is the result of this application of force in tangential direction. So upper part of that body or component will be moving, but lower part will be stationary. So this type of loading is called as shear loading or shear load. Now we'll see concept of stress. So concept of stress can be, or definition of stress can be written as: when a material is subjected to an axial force, a resisting force is set up inside the component, and such internal resistance is called as stress. So its mathematical value will be calculated as stress is equal to stress, it is denoted by letter sigma. It is equal to internal resistance. As you know, whenever we apply the external force, body will set up inside or internal force which will be resisting the applied forces. So that applied forces and external forces will be same up to elastic limit. So up to elastic limit, whenever you are applying some force, suppose 10 kilonewton force is applied here in this example, suppose P value is 10 kilonewton, then internal resistance will be equal and opposite. So here, as force is compressive, force P is compressive, here inside the body similar force will be developed, but the force direction will be opposite to the direction of application of force. So here this is the internal force set up due to application of external force, and that value, or here we can write this force as R, as it is a resultant or reaction to the force P. Up to elastic limit, you can say up to elastic limit P will be equal to R. So value of P will be equal to R. So we can write internal resistance equal to external force up to elastic limit, and resisting area can be taken as cross sectional area. So stress is calculated as external force divided by resisting area, or we can write sigma is equal to P by A. Now what is the unit of this sigma or stress? So you can write SI unit of P. P is force, so SI unit of force will be Newton, and area, the unit of area, SI unit of area will be meter square. So SI unit of stress will be Newton per meter square. So here you are observing Newton per meter square is the SI unit. It is also called as Pascal, and it is written as capital P small a. So you can say Newton per meter square equal to Pascal. So there are some conversions which will be useful for our problem solving or solution of problems. So first is 1 kilopascal is equal to how much? So 1 kilopascal is equal to 10 raised to 3 Pascal, or it is also written as 10 raised to 3 Newton per meter square, as it will be Newton Pascal will be equal to Newton per meter square. Then second conversion, 1 megapascal. So 1 megapascal will be equal to 10 raised to 6. Mega stands for 10 raised to 6, and kilo stand for 10 raised to 3. So mega means 10 raised to 6 Pascal. So it is 10 raised to 6 Newton per meter square. And here you are observing one more relation, that is 1 Newton per mm square. So here I will write 1 megapascal is equal to 10 raised to 6. How that 1 Newton per mm square will come, we'll see here. So it is 10 raised to 6 Newton per meter square as per this first and third part of that equation. So 10 raised to 6 Newton per meter square, we need to convert that meter to mm. So here I will write 10 raised to 6 as it is, Newton as it is, and 1 meter is equal to 1000 mm bracket square. So if you make that square of 10,000, sorry 1000, it will be equal to 10 raised to, here it is 10 raised to 3, square means 10 raised to 6, and mm raised to 2, that is mm square. So this 10 raised to 6 and this 10 raised to 6 will get cancelled. So we'll be having 1 Newton per mm square, and which is equal to 1 megapascal. This is the calculation behind that relation. So many of you don't know this calculation. Don't mug up the values, try to calculate, it will be easy. So next calculation or next conversion is 1 gigapascal is equal to 10 raised to 9 Pascal. So giga stand for 10 raised to 9. So here 1 gigapascal is equal to 10 raised to 9. So 10 raised to 9 Pascal means Newton per meter square. You can write here as 10 raised to 3 Newton per mm square, as this 10 raised to 9 can be written as 10 raised to 3 into 10 raised to 6 Newton per meter square. So value of this 10 raised to 6 Newton per meter square. We already calculated here. So we can write this 1 gigapascal is equal to 10 raised to 3 Newton per mm square. Now we'll see the types of stresses. So we have seen types of loads. Now depending upon the type of load, type of stress will be there. So types of stresses, first is direct. It is also called as simple or normal stress. So it is again classified into two types, that is tensile and compressive. So first we'll see tensile stress. As I have explained you, the tensile stress will develop equal and opposite force as a resulting or resisting force inside the body whenever the force value is within elastic limit. So this XX section is there. So left hand side of XX section is acting upon by force P, which will be away from the body. So inside the body also there will be similar amount of force will be generated, and its value will be equal to R, and within elastic limit the value of R will be equal to value of P. Similar for right hand side. So here also P force is acting on the body, and its result will be developed inside the body. So it will be equal to, again it will be equal to R, and within elastic limit this P will be equal to R. So here is the diagram. Now next type of stress will be compressive stress. So for compressive stress, you can see this diagram here. There is a printing mistake or typing mistake. So direction of P should be inward. In case of compressive force should be coming towards the body. Here also direction should be towards the body. So here last. So here also if you apply force which is coming towards the body along the axial direction, it will generate or it will develop the compressive stresses inside the body. So these compressive stresses can be equate or it is equal to the applied force. So resisting force can be written as R, and value will be same, P is equal to R within elastic limit. Similar for right hand side. So final diagram can be written or drawn in this way. So next type of stress we'll see shear stress. So shear stress, when body is applied by tangential force. So that here you are observing this P is tangential force applied on the face DC. If you take section XX, you can observe the resistance which will be opposite to the applied force. So P is towards right, R will be towards left. Similar for remaining section, this R will be balanced by this R reaction on remaining part. So reaction R will be towards right, and that reaction will be balanced by the support reaction or support, which will be value of that support reaction will be equal to P by equilibrium conditions. So this is the type of shear stress or type of stresses, or direct stresses or normal stresses. Actually this shear stress is not a direct stress, it will be tangential stress. Okay, so next type of stress is indirect stress. So indirect stress will be again classified into two types, bending and torsion. So bending and torsion will be studied in further part of this strength of material syllabus. So I will be focusing in detail in those lessons. So here you can remember indirect stresses are bending and torsion. So bending will be trying bending the component, and torsion will be twisting the component. This much information is sufficient for this lesson. Next type of stress will be combined stress. So combination of different stresses will be there in case of combined stress. So we'll see this strain. Now, as we have seen, or first we'll see the definition. So if the elastic body is subjected to an axial load, it will undergo change in dimension. The change in dimension per unit original dimension is called as strain. So you can our strain is denoted by letter small e. So here I will explain the concept of strain by using the diagram. Suppose this body is acted upon by force P, tensile force is there, and it is having length L. So due to application of force, this body will be changing its dimension from L to L plus DL. So final dimensions will be L plus DL. So now strain is equal to, what is strain? Strain is denoted by letter E is equal to change in dimension. What is the change in dimension here? DL will be change in dimension. So DL as linear dimension I am considering, DL will be change in length and L will be the original length, and this will be the equation for change, equation for strain. So strain is equal to change in dimension upon original dimension, that is DL by L. Now what is the unit of strain? So how to calculate unit? What will be the unit of DL? DL is length, so its unit will be meter or mm, and length will be having, again unit will be meter, so meter will get cancelled. The unit of strain will be no unit. Strain will be having no any unit, so it is unitless quantity. Now types of strains. So here the diagram is showing two types of strains actually. So here this first diagram, or this, sorry, this bigger rectangle is showing initial dimension, so initial size. So this cross section will be rectangular cross section with width B and height or depth D and length L. So here you can see the length L or capital L is there. So length L. When the force P is applied on the component, its length will change from L to L plus DL. So here you are observing the change in length L plus DL. But when length will be increasing, or when length increases, its other two dimension will decrease. So this dotted diagram is showing you the final dimensions after loading. So the depth is decreased by delta D, and width is decreased by delta B. So final dimensions will be L plus DL will be the length, then B minus delta B will be the breadth, or we can say width, and D minus delta D will be the depth. Okay, so here we'll be studying two types of stresses, sorry, two types of strains. So first is linear or I can write or longitudinal strain. Linear strain is also called as longitudinal strain. It will be along the length. So along the length, what is the strain? Change in length upon original length. So this will be the linear or longitudinal strain. Here you are observing the equation for longitudinal strain. And second type of strain is there. It is called as lateral strain. Lateral strain will be equal to change in lateral dimension. Any dimension you can take. Here if you take B, then delta B or dabba B divided by B will give you lateral strain, or you can also divide delta D by D. it will also give you same value of strain, and it is called as lateral strain. So one more term will be coming, or will you are going to study, that is called as Poisson's ratio. So Poisson's ratio is denoted by letter mu, and it will be equal to lateral strain divided by linear strain. So for your information only, I am writing this over here. So Poisson's ratio is the ratio of lateral strain to linear strain. We'll be studying this concept of Poisson's ratio in coming lectures. So now we'll see types of strains. So similar to types of stresses, there are types of strains. So first one, longitudinal or linear strain. It is along the length. Then that longitudinal or linear strain is again classified into two types, that is tensile strain. The result of tensile stress will be tensile strain, and second one is compressive strain. It is result of compressive stress. Next, lateral strain. We have now discussed that lateral strain in earlier slide. It is a strain in lateral direction. Third one is volumetric strain. The volumetric strain is new concept. Actually, volumetric strain will be a change in volume divided by original volume. So it will be strain in volume uh, when you take or when you focus the volume. So change in volume, total volume divided by original volume will give you volumetric strain. And last strain is shear strain. So we'll study, or here some diagrams are also given. So we'll see the diagrams. So here you are observing tensile strain. So dl, this delta L divided by L0 will give you tensile strain. Then this delta L divided by L0 will also give you compressive strain when forces are towards the body. Then volumetric strain. So suppose you have applied the force P on this box, and its volume is changed by delta V or dV. Then volumetric strain will be denoted by EV is equal to dV by V will be equal to volumetric strain. And shear strain is again or I will write equation of shear strain. Shear strain is equal to tan phi will be equal to here x by L. So will be equal to shear strain. As phi value is very less, you can write shear strain is equal to x by, or you can write phi is equal to x by L. So it will be equal to shear strain. So we'll be studying this shear strain, volumetric strain in detail in coming lectures. So we'll stop here, and we'll continue this part in next video. Thank you all of you. Thank you for watching the video.